All right, and welcome to the beginning of our SOL review. This is SOL topic number 1. We will review graphs of functions. So in each of these tutorials, we will be showing you tips and tricks in the calculator, so please make sure you have your calculator with you. In this packet, when asked what equation matches a graph, we're going to go to y equals, type in the equation, and then click graph to see what our picture looks like. Some of the more commonly used symbols are listed right here, and I'd like to remind us where we can find them on the calculator. So grab your calculator and turn it on. If you need absolute value bars, we're going to hit Math, go over to the Number menu, and it's option number 1. So the Math button is right here. We're going to go to the Number menu, and it's option number 1 for absolute value. So there they are. Let's clear that out. If we need a square root, we hit second and then x squared. So here's my second button and the x squared button. And there is my square root symbol. Let's clear that. For a cube root, we're going to go back to the Math menu, and it's option number 4. So we hit the Math button, and option number 4 is our cube root. All right, clear that. For rational functions, these are fractions. We're going to press alpha, y equals, option number 1. So our alpha button, and then y equals, and then option number 1. This pulls up a fraction, and this is very useful whenever you need to input a fraction into the calculator. Please use that. We'll clear that. And finally, logarithmic. We'll hit Math, and it's option A. So back to the Math button. I'm going to push up a couple times because that's faster to get to the log base, and I'll push Enter, and there is our log base symbol. We'll clear that. So most of these symbols are in the Math menu. If you cannot see it as one of the keys, I would suggest going into the Math menu and hunting around for that. Also in this packet, if you see f of x or g of x, these are really just fancy names for y. That's why we are able to graph them using the y equals. So let's look at our first example. It says which function is best represented by this graph. So we have a picture of the graph and we have 4 possible answer choices. So let's pull up our calculator and we're going to go to y equals and graph each of these answer choices. These are all rational functions, so I'm going to be using our fraction. So I hit alpha, y equals, number 1. So there's our fraction. And I'll just start with answer choice A. I've got 8 in the numerator. I'm going to push down to get to the denominator, and I have x plus 3. There's a little right arrow button here, so I'm going to hit the right arrow button to get out of that fraction, and that's what I need. Let's hit graph. See what our picture looks like. Okay, so it's similar, but not exactly. This part of the curve hits the y-axis right here, just above 2. And it does not hit that on our actual graph here. So I know that answer A is not correct. We encourage you to use your SOL tools and pull out your red X and put it through any answer choice that you know is not correct. So let's go back to y equals, and I'm going to input option B. Well, 8 is already still the numerator, so I'm going to hit down to the denominator and change that plus sign to a minus sign. Let me get out of the fraction just to be sure. Yep, 8 divided by x minus 3. I'll hit graph. And let's see what we have now. Ooh, that looks closer. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I'm pretty confident that this is going to be my answer, but I still want to input these just for practice and to be sure. So y equals, I'm going to leave that alone in y1, and I'm going to go down to y2. I'm going to input C. Let's do alpha, y equals, number 1, to call up the fraction. My numerator now is x plus 1. I'll hit down to get to the denominator, and I have x plus 3. Now I don't want to graph both of these at the same time because that might be confusing. So what I can do is go to y1 and unhighlight the equal sign. And therefore it will not graph that, but it'll stay there in my calculator. Now if I hit graph, it'll only graph the y2. It's in a different color as well. Whoa, wow, that's way off. Okay, so we know it's definitely not option C. I'll put an X through there. Let's do option D just to be sure. I'll go to y equals. I'm going to go down to y2. And let's see, I've got x plus 1 in the numerator, but x minus 3 in the denominator. So let's see what that graph looks like. I'll hit graph. So it's a little bit closer, but as you see, this part of the graph is above the x-axis over here, and if you look in our picture, it is not above the x-axis. So it's close, but no thank you, it's not D. So we must be option B. I'll go back and double check. I will clear out y2, and I will go and turn on the equal sign for y1, and lastly, double check. That is correct. That is the answer. So in this packet, you're using your y equals graphing and matching the graphs. Thanks for watching this tutorial, and have fun with your packet.